empire in recent history has loomed as large as the Sinaloa Cartel. Yet America's forces face it without hesitation. Guns flash behind shipping containers, speedboats slice through moonlit waters, and secret airstrips pulse with illicit activity. But the U.S. watches, calculating every move. The cartel may control streets and skies, but its power meets a force far greater. How can an organization this massive be contained? And why, despite its size, does it fail to intimidate the world's most formidable military? Join us as we uncover why the U.S. is not afraid to go after the largest cartel in history. For nearly 2 decades, Mexico has waged a relentless and bloody struggle against the cartels, deploying police, federal agents, and military personnel to a war that remains far from won. Since 2006, when the Mexican government officially declared war on organized crime, more than 460,000 people have lost their lives, a staggering toll that underscores the scale and persistence of the violence. Billions of dollars in aid from the United States have supported Mexico's fight, yet the death toll continues to climb, a stark testament to the cartel's resilience and adaptability. Even amidst these challenges, Mexico has achieved moments of success. When President Felipe Calderón launched the military offensive, he mobilized tens of thousands of Mexico's 412,000 active duty soldiers, often replacing or reinforcing local police. The crackdown yielded immediate results. 25 of the nation's 37 most notorious drug lords were captured, striking at the leadership of the major cartels. Yet this strategy revealed a critical flaw. Removing high-profile kingpins created power vacuums that fractured the underworld, splintering it into smaller, more violent factions. These emerging gangs were lean, unpredictable, and highly adaptable. Their decentralized operations and brutal tactics allowed them to operate under the radar and challenge state authority with increasing frequency. Compounding the problem, Calderón's successors shifted priorities, focusing on reducing homicide rates rather than aggressively pursuing the fragmented cartels, leaving these offshoots free to consolidate power. Today, the cartels are no longer merely criminal organizations. They have grown into paramilitary powers, capable of confronting the state on its own soil. Recognizing its limitations, Mexico has sought full U.S. involvement, and Washington has responded. The United States now brings its full technological and military might to the fight, deploying elite forces, advanced surveillance systems, and cutting-edge weaponry to a battle as complex as it is dangerous. The U.S. has urgent reasons to enter this fight. Between 90 and 94% of the heroin consumed in America originates in Mexico. At the same time, fentanyl, a far deadlier synthetic opioid, claims roughly 55,000 American lives each year. Cocaine adds yet another dimension, with thousands of tons crossing the southern border annually. For the United States, targeting the cartels is not just a matter of policy, it is a matter of survival. For Mexico, dismantling these criminal networks has been a decades-long struggle. Together, the alignment of these objectives creates a near-perfect partnership, where each country's interests reinforce the others, raising the stakes and amplifying the potential impact of success. On the surface, America holds an overwhelming advantage. The United States military, with its vast resources and global reach, enters a battlefield where sheer workforce seems to guarantee success. According to Global Firepower, the U.S. maintains roughly 1.3 million active duty personnel, supplemented by nearly 800,000 reservists ready to respond if needed. Additionally, the country could rapidly expand its forces through its draft, with an average of 4.3 million eligible individuals annually. While such measures may never be necessary, the scale of America's military dwarfs any criminal organization. Yet the cartels are far from insignificant. Estimates suggest that Mexico's criminal networks employ around 175,000 individuals across dozens of gangs, effectively making them the country's 5th largest employer. The prison system also feeds their ranks, effectively making them 1.7 million people incarcerated across Latin America. The cartels can recruit opportunistically, steadily replenishing and expanding their workforce. While this process is gradual, it ensures resilience under sustained pressure. Despite the U.S. military's overwhelming size, victory cannot be taken for granted. Success requires careful strategy because the cartels wield advantages beyond workforce, chief among them, fear. Mexican public opinion highlights the challenge. In 2012, 80% of Mexicans expressed support for military action against the cartels, indicating a desire to see drug kingpins removed from power. Yet fear complicates the picture. By 2023, surveys conducted by the Border Report revealed that residents in cartel-dominated cities frequently felt unsafe in their own homes. In Juarez and Mexicali, roughly 70% of adults reported living in fear. In Reynosa, the figure climbed to 83%. In Zacatecas, a city where corpses have been left hanging from bridges and stacked in vehicles, an alarming 92% of residents felt unsafe. This fear is precisely what the cartels exploit. It allows them to control communities without directly confronting the government. While some citizens may know where cartel members operate, few are willing to share intelligence, aware of the consequences. The threat of extreme violence, from abduction to execution, casts a shadow over any would-be informant, complicating operations far beyond what the workforce alone could resolve. The United States cannot simply surge into Mexican cities without caution. Cartel operatives blend seamlessly into urban environments, hiding among ordinary residents. Any aggressive assault risks massive civilian casualties, undermining the mission to weaken these criminal networks. Operations must therefore be precise, deliberate, and surgical, combining strategy with intelligence to navigate both the human and operational complexities of the battlefield. The weapons available to the cartels also pose a formidable challenge. Though Mexico allows citizens to own firearms, all legal sales occur through a single gun shop in Mexico City, controlled entirely by the Mexican military. This centralized system makes it virtually impossible for cartel members to acquire firearms legally, and the risks of attempting to circumvent the system are too significant. Arrest could compromise entire networks, so cartels overwhelmingly rely on smuggling weapons into the country. That smuggling has produced a heavily equipped criminal force whose arsenals are dominated by AR-15 and AK-47 style rifles, many traced to the United States and frequently modified to increase the rate of fire and lethality. In 2009 alone, authorities seized more than 4,400 modified rifles, many converted to select fire, while tens of thousands more remain in circulation. Even more alarming are the heavier systems that have surfaced. Insiders and seizures point to access to guided anti-armor weapons, with a Sinaloa operative known as El Flaco claiming javelin launchers and Mexican authorities having intercepted Stingers and AT-4 type launchers. Evidence that cartels possess stockpiles of battlefield-grade firepower. How every piece arrived remains unclear, though reported losses of military systems during past conflicts and persistent smuggling routes make diversion and illicit transfer plausible. And the presence of such weapons darkly raises the stakes of any conventional assault. The United States, however, fields overwhelming conventional strength. Thousands of tanks, hundreds of thousands of vehicles, hundreds of multiple launch rocket systems and artillery units, and widespread small arms and anti-armor inventories including javelins and standard M4 carbine issue, all backed by trained tactical units capable of large-scale operations. Still, raw firepower is only one part of the problem, because cartel strongholds are not isolated compounds but fortified positions embedded within towns and cities where civilians live and work, requiring restraint and surgical planning to avoid catastrophic collateral damage. A typical operation would therefore begin not with a frontal assault, but with containment. Forces would encircle the target, establish checkpoints on every access route, and issue public warnings through media and communications channels, instructing residents to shelter in place while schools and businesses close. Only after those measures and additional intelligence-driven preparations would armored convoys and infantry advance into the lockdown area, moving deliberately to isolate and dismantle the cartel presence while minimizing civilian harm. Intelligence is the backbone of these operations. Data gathered from surveillance and ground sources pinpoints the most critical cartel facilities, guiding American troops as they advance through urban streets. These movements resemble a heavily armed law enforcement sweep rather than a conventional military assault, emphasizing precision, minimizing civilian casualties, and targeting key cartel assets. When engaged, cartel members resist, transforming city streets into chaotic battlefields. AR-15 and AK-47s fire from rooftops, alleyways, and fortified positions, while U.S. forces respond with M4s and heavier weaponry. Ambushes may strike isolated vehicles, and Javelin missiles could threaten tanks and armored units. Yet even under these conditions, confrontations overwhelmingly favor American forces. Superior workforce, advanced weapons, and coordinated tactics force cartel operatives to retreat whenever possible, prioritizing survival over futile resistance. One of the greatest challenges the U.S. faces is the cartel's escape infrastructure. Decades of conflict have honed their ability to vanish from sight. Underground tunnels, a hallmark of cartel strategy, allow operatives and leaders to evade even heavily armed adversaries. In 2022, authorities uncovered a 1,700-foot tunnel connecting Tijuana to a warehouse in San Diego. 61 feet underground and 4 feet in diameter, the passage featured a rudimentary railway system. Though primarily used for narcotics smuggling, tunnels like this double as emergency escape routes. Such tunnels are not unique. Multiple passages between Tijuana and San Diego have been discovered, and countless smaller hidden tunnels likely exist deeper in Mexico. The infamous prison escape of Joaquin El Chapo Guzman, aided by a mile-long tunnel, illustrates the scale and sophistication of these networks. Cartel strongholds almost certainly feature similar systems that provide leaders with discrete avenues to flee during U.S. operations. Despite these challenges, American forces have developed strategies to counter them. Leveraging intelligence from Mexican authorities and cooperative civilians, the U.S. systematically implements blockades, targeted raids, and surgical strikes. Some missions capture high-value cartel members, while even partial successes scatter remaining personnel, forcing the abandonment of weapons caches and leaving territory temporarily undefended. These operations reveal a crucial insight: defeating the cartels does not require conventional warfare. By isolating members, cutting off resources, and restricting movement, American forces can cripple operational capacity. Disrupting the cartel's ability to function can be as effective as direct engagement, and this is where the U.S. Navy becomes a decisive factor. The Mexican cartels operate a makeshift navy, not one of battleships and fleets, but a network of vessels designed to move narcotics by sea. As Rear Admiral Christopher Tomey of the U.S. Coast Guard's Joint Insurgency Task Force South revealed in 2015, over 95% of drugs bound for the United States travel via water. Cartels utilize every type of vessel available, from massive container ships and non-commercial craft to sailboats, yachts, and humble fishing boats. Speedboats allow smugglers to outrun patrols, while improvised submersibles, constructed from fiberglass and marine-grade plywood, add a stealthy dimension. These crude submarines, powered by commercial engines and costing roughly $1 million each, slip beneath patrols undetected. Yet despite their ingenuity, the cartel fleet is strictly transactional, designed for concealment and transport, not combat. At sea, the United States enjoys overwhelming superiority. Its 440 naval assets collectively reach 4.5 million tons, a measure of size and endurance. Among them are 11 aircraft carriers and 9 helicopter carriers, unmatched platforms for projecting power. The cartels have no weapons capable of threatening these vessels, allowing the U.S. Navy to stage air and sea operations off Mexico with impunity. Complementing the carriers are 81 destroyers, long-range warships equipped with integrated anti-air, anti-submarine, and anti-surface systems, including long-range missiles. 26 corvettes provide agile surface support, while nearly 70 submarines offer decisive undersea capability, capable of neutralizing cartel submersibles or surface craft with a single torpedo. Identification remains the operational challenge. Civilian cargo ships or yachts cannot be targeted on suspicion alone. As a result, blockades and maritime interception become central strategies. The U.S. has concentrated its naval presence in choke points, including a cordon in the Gulf of Mexico, deployments in the Atlantic and Pacific, and a blockade near the Yucatan Channel positioned outside Cuban waters. On land, these efforts work in tandem with ground operations targeting cartel strongholds. In the air, the cartel's capabilities remain primarily logistical. Between 2006 and 2015, Mexican authorities seized nearly 600 planes and helicopters linked to the Sinaloa Cartel, and thousands of clandestine airstrips reportedly facilitated their movement. Standard aircraft, Cessnas, Pipers, and Gulfstreams serve transport purposes but offer no offensive power. By contrast, the United States fields roughly 13,000 aircraft, including nearly 1,800 fighters, approximately 900 attack aircraft, 900 fixed-wing transports, a tanker fleet of 600, and thousands of helicopters. This overwhelming force dominates the skies, yet the U.S. has acted with restraint, avoiding direct strikes in populated areas. Instead, it turns off cartel mobility by targeting isolated airstrips and facilities, achieving strategic impact without widespread civilian risk. Recent surveillance operations have intensified efforts to locate hidden landing strips and trafficking routes. Once a strip is confirmed, it is rendered unusable, cutting off the air corridors the cartels rely on. Combined with tighter controls at civilian airports and inspections of private aircraft, this strategy effectively grounds much of the cartel fleet, leaving smugglers with only a handful of helicopters, few of which can match the scale or sophistication of U.S. aerial power. The conflict between the U.S. military and the Mexican cartels increasingly appears to favor American forces. Even while restraining full capabilities to protect civilians, the U.S. has struck cartel strongholds, imposed a naval blockade, and asserted near-total control of Mexican airspace. Yet the cartels remain far from powerless. Their greatest weapon is money. Estimates of their wealth vary widely. In 1929, Senator David Perdue described the cartel business as a multi-billion-dollar enterprise, potentially reaching $500 billion, larger than Walmart itself. Other analyses suggested annual revenues between $6 and $29 billion. Still, either way, the sums are staggering, providing ample resources to fund weapons, bribes, and logistics for a pseudo-military operation. Homeland Security Chairman Mark E. Green added perspective in 2023, noting that cartels earned an estimated $13 billion in 2021 alone from human trafficking and smuggling. While still far below the U.S.'s $850 billion defense budget in 2024, these funds allow cartels to purchase black market weapons, bribe local officials, and exploit weak links in law enforcement or the military, fortifying their operations in ways that pure firepower alone cannot counter. This financial leverage also reinforces the rationale for a U.S. naval blockade. With 95% of cartel drugs shipped by water, blocking ports denies their primary revenue stream. Remaining cash becomes finite, limiting the ability to replenish stockpiles or expand operations. Simultaneously, U.S. intelligence and ground forces target drug production facilities, using spy planes and guidance from Mexican authorities to dismantle the infrastructure that fuels the cartel economy. Outside supply chains are also under scrutiny. Roughly 90% of cocaine entering the U.S. originates in Colombia before passing through Mexican territory. Disrupting these routes, through naval coverage in the South Pacific or checkpoints along Central America's borders, further starves the cartels of revenue. The objective is clear: weaken the financial lifeline, create internal friction, and force cartel members to reveal key leaders. Yet even with these strategies, the cartels remain formidable because they operate in ways that differ from those of conventional armies. Violence within cartel networks is methodical and increasingly militarized. Robert J. Bunker, editor of Illicit Tactical Progress, Mexican Cartel Tactical Notes, 2013 to 2020, notes that cartels have incorporated military-grade weapons such as standoff munitions, rocket-propelled grenades, and rifle grenades. Foot soldiers wear body armor, carry assault rifles, and train in specialized camps designed to teach tactics and desensitize recruits to extreme violence. Improvised explosive devices and booby traps are common. This preparation primes cartels for guerrilla warfare. While the U.S. military may dismantle strongholds, destroy airstrips, and sever cash flows, much of the conflict takes the form of hit-and-run attacks, ambushes, and blending into local populations. Cartels exploit fear and chaos to control civilians, limit intelligence, and hinder American operations. Divide-and-conquer tactics allow small, dispersed U.S. units to be targeted, further complicating operational effectiveness. Corruption compounds the challenge. In December 2023, Mexican authorities arrested over 100 police officers across 2 states for misconduct and collusion. Cartels exploit this local corruption, using bribes to distort intelligence and protect networks. Combined with guerrilla tactics and vast financial resources, these defenses make the cartels resilient, adaptive, and challenging to dismantle entirely. America's strategy of cutting off the cartel's income strikes directly at the heart of their guerrilla tactics. Still, another critical factor could unravel the network entirely: the fragmented nature of the cartels themselves. There is no single, unified Mexican cartel. Instead, the country hosts multiple powerful gangs, the largest being the Sinaloa Cartel and the Jalisco New Generation Cartel. Other significant players include Losas, the Beltran Organization, the Gulf Cartel, and the Juarez Cartel. These groups are constantly at war with one another, battling over territory and influence. This infighting becomes decisive in the later stages of the conflict. Guerrilla attacks from small cartel units may harass U.S. forces, but leadership is fractured. No single authority exists to coordinate resistance. Efforts to unify will likely produce chaos at the top. As the U.S. dismantles airstrips, destroys strongholds, and blocks financial lifelines, it can largely wait for the cartel's internal disorganization to work against them. Multiple warring factions attempting to cooperate often result in self-inflicted disruption that can be more damaging than American firepower. Even if the cartels manage some semblance of order, it will not suffice. The full force of the U.S. military would crush rank-and-file fighters, erase strongholds, and sever the flow of drugs and money. Guerrilla tactics would falter under overwhelming pressure, leaving cartel leaders exposed and hunted individually. In the end, the combination of internal disarray and relentless U.S. operations would bring the cartel's empire in Mexico to inevitable collapse. The night sky lit up with fire as the United States fighter jets roared into action, unleashing a strike that reduced a secret cartel fentanyl lab to rubble in seconds. This was America's power in full display in the war with cartels. With fentanyl overdoses now killing more than 84,000 Americans every year, the stakes have never been higher. Is this the beginning of something much bigger? And how far will the United States go to crush the cartels once and for all? Join us as we find out just how far America is willing to go in its battle against the fentanyl crisis. At 30,000 feet, 12 F-22 Raptors move across the sky like shadows. No sound trails behind them, and no warning betrays their approach. On radar screens, they are ghosts. Far below, hidden beneath a thick canopy, a billion-dollar fentanyl complex runs without pause, relying on terrain and secrecy for protection. But this is not a mission of bullets or firefights. What follows is not noise or spectacle, but a strike shaped by silence and exact control. The F-22 was built to vanish. Its edges are cut to deflect radar, and the skin of the jet is layered with special coatings that swallow signals before they can return to the source. Even the engines are buried behind curved ducts that keep reflections from giving away their position. Decades of engineering produced a jet that slips through modern defenses as if they were never there. Avoiding detection is more than just shape and coating. The F-22 manages its heat output so efficiently that infrared sensors read little more than background air. Radio chatter is cut to almost nothing. When pilots do communicate, it is through encrypted bursts so short they vanish in a blink. Secure satellites carry their data, separate from civilian networks, ensuring nothing leaks into the open. Every system works toward the same goal: get close, strike, and disappear. Each Raptor carries 2 GBU-39 small-diameter bombs. At 250 pounds each, they are compact but devastatingly accurate. GPS guidance steers them to within 3 feet of a target. If jamming disrupts the signal, laser guidance finishes the job. The smaller size of the bomb allows Raptors to carry more weapons without compromising stealth, and the focus blast means a single building can be destroyed without flattening everything around it. The chosen target sits deep in Sinaloa's wilderness. Workers in masks handle chemicals inside a facility capable of producing enough fentanyl to kill tens of millions. For years, the jungle's cover kept sites like this out of reach. That advantage is gone. Synthetic aperture radar can now pierce clouds in the canopy. Thermal sensors pick up the faint glow of generators. Intercepted communications map the hierarchy of cartel leaders. Tools first used against terror networks in Afghanistan and Iraq now turn against organized crime with the same precision. With the target confirmed, the command is given. Execute. The Raptors close in, still invisible to Mexican radar. 24 bombs drop at once, falling clean through the sky without trails or thunder. Gravity pulls them down, guided all the way to the mark. The first explosion tears into the heart of the compound, shaking the jungle for miles. The second touches off chemical storage tanks, setting off a chain reaction that rips the site apart. In a matter of seconds, the billion-dollar facility is reduced to a crater of scorched earth and twisted debris. What once fueled global trade is gone. By the time local security forces respond, the jets have vanished. Radar never registered them. The skies look untouched. The only sign comes from intercepted cartel messages, frantic voices repeating a single phrase. They know where we are. This is stealth warfare, no spectacle, no drawn-out exchange. Just the certainty that when the strike comes, it is sudden, silent, and final. Then the Raptors vanish once more, leaving only fear in the silence overhead. The crater in Sinaloa was more than the destruction of one lab. It signaled the unraveling of empires crafted by men who believed terrain and corruption made them untouchable. These were not street dealers. They were architects of billion-dollar syndicates that operated like shadow governments. But who were the minds behind these fortresses that defied states for decades? Rafael Caro Quintero earned the title Narco of Narcos by rewriting the playbook of the drug trade. In the 1980s, this Sinaloa native did not simply move cocaine. He engineered the first major pipeline linking Colombian cartels through Mexican corridors into American cities. His Guadalajara cartel became the prototype for every organization that followed. Ruthless violence fused with logistical discipline, shifting narcotics from street sales to industrial-scale distribution. Quintero's empire collapsed after one fatal miscalculation. DEA agent Enrique Camarena uncovered too much: routes, contacts, and operations. In retaliation, cartel gunmen abducted him, and after 30 hours of torture, left his body sealed in plastic. The 1985 murder triggered international outrage and a manhunt that ended with Quintero locked in prison. But prison was temporary. In 2013, a Mexican court freed him on a legal technicality. At 60, instead of fading into retirement, he vanished into Sinaloa's mountains. From bunkers carved into rock, he rebuilt operations with satellite internet, encrypted devices, and tunnel systems that allowed entire networks to function unseen. The Trevino Morales brothers added a new terrifying dimension. Miguel, Z40, and Omar, Z42, were not traditional traffickers. Both were elite soldiers from Mexico's special forces who deserted to form the backbone of Los Zetas. Years of military discipline had reshaped the cartel into something more than a criminal outfit. It became a paramilitary machine. Under the Zetas' command came armored trucks, night vision gear, and assaults so well coordinated they looked like full-scale military operations. More deserters were drawn to their ranks, and what started as an enforcement arm soon grew into one of the most feared cartels Mexico had ever seen. They didn't stop at drug trafficking. Kidnapping, human smuggling, and extortion became part of their empire, spreading fear across entire states. Even when the leaders were locked behind bars, their power reached out through coded notes and corrupt officials who carried out orders on the outside. And then there was Vicente Carrillo Fuentes, another figure who carried on a legacy of blood and violence. When his brother Amado, the Lord of the Skies, died during botched plastic surgery in 1997, Vicente inherited the Juarez cartel. He turned Ciudad Juarez into one of the deadliest battlefields of the 21st century. Between 2008 and 2012, more than 10,000 lives were claimed as rival cartels clashed for control of the Juarez-El Paso crossings. These bridges were gateways worth billions, where every shipment into the United States represented fortunes. For Vicente, geography decided everything. To lock down his territory, he bought off police forces, slipped money into judges' pockets, and secured protection from officials who should have stood against him. Violence was the tool he used to strike fear, but corruption was the armor that made him untouchable. These weren't street thugs. They operated on another level. They raised armies, taxed whole communities, enforced their own rules, and built black market economies strong enough to rival real governments. The strength of their empires was buried out of sight. Their labs were dug in and fortified, run like clockwork with crews rotating around the clock. Generators kept the power steady, cutting off outside eyes. And when the pressure came from law enforcement, escape tunnels gave their bosses a clean way out. The structures they designed and perfected became blueprints for the cartels that dominate today. Intelligence reports estimate the Sinaloa and Jalisco New Generation cartels now control more than 60% of global fentanyl production, operating on frameworks designed by Quintero, the Treviños, and Carrillo Fuentes. These networks endured assassinations, arrests, and full-scale military campaigns, reshaping themselves into syndicates strong enough to survive long after their founders were gone. For years, these masterminds believed their mountains and alliances rendered them immune to outside power. But surveillance satellites, synthetic aperture radar, and thermal imaging were already sketching bullseyes over the facilities they thought could never be touched. The men who built cartel empires believed their mountain strongholds and political protection made them untouchable. For decades, they lived as though hidden in plain sight. What they didn't see coming was that the same technology once aimed at Moscow's missile fields would eventually turn south, peeling back every layer of secrecy they thought would last forever. The U-2 Dragon Lady still climbs into the sky at dawn, its long wings flexing as engines push the aircraft towards 70,000 feet. In the Cold War, this spy plane brought back photos of nuclear launch sites deep inside Soviet territory. Now its cameras pivot toward Mexico, where its lenses read license plates and track convoys through cartel countries, all while the aircraft stays legally outside the border. On paper, it looks like a routine patrol. In reality, it's one of the most sophisticated intelligence missions of America's modern drug war. Washington doesn't wait. Where there was one flight a month, there are suddenly nearly 20 in less than 2 weeks. Aircraft designed to track submarines beneath Arctic ice or missiles across Siberia are redirected to the deserts and jungles of the Americas. The Cold War arsenal has found a new enemy. The Navy's P-8 Poseidon, a maritime hunter built to stalk Russian subs across the Pacific, now sweeps over the borderlands. Its sensor pods, worth more than the annual defense budget of some nations, can crack encrypted radios, listen in from hundreds of miles, and cut through storms or darkness to reveal facilities long thought invisible. The same technology that once searched for steel hulls beneath the polar seas now exposes fentanyl labs hidden under jungle canopy. Then comes the breakthrough, synthetic aperture radar. Instead of photographs, it builds maps by bouncing radio waves off the ground, revealing tunnels, airstrips, and bunkers that standard surveillance can't touch. Cartel compounds carved into mountains appear on American screens with the kind of detail engineers once reserved for Soviet launch silos. Drones join the hunt. Predators redeployed from Middle Eastern battlefields circle quietly over the South, listening for every whisper of digital life. Cell phones, satellite links, and encrypted apps are all vacuumed up and processed before cartel leaders even realize their messages were sent. What once felt like secure communication now betrays them with every call. The shock inside cartel ranks is instant. Intercepts show bosses abandoning long-used safe houses overnight, convinced the walls themselves are betraying them. No matter how often the convoys change their routes, satellites still manage to track them with exact precision. The remote terrain that once kept them hidden now works against them, turning those same stretches of land into perfect targets for strikes launched from far away. Thermal imaging reads the heat of workers laboring in bunkers. Signals intelligence turns encrypted satellite phones into glowing beacons for American operators. What criminals built as fortresses now serve as targets. For cartels, the message is unmistakable. The invisible have become visible. The tools built to keep superpowers in check are now dismantling their empires, one coordinate at a time. The hunters were now the hunted. Tools once built for Cold War standoffs had been repurposed, aimed not at Moscow but at Mexico's mountains. Is this setting the stage for a political gamble that would redraw the lines of America's war on crime? On January 20th, 2025, Donald Trump signed an order in the Oval Office that formally reclassified Mexican cartels as foreign terrorist organizations. The move shifted their legal standing from criminal groups to the same category as organizations such as ISIS and Al-Qaeda. The consequences were immediate. Intelligence agencies gained new authority for covert action, untethered from law enforcement's red tape. The Pentagon could apply the same counterterrorism playbook once used in Iraq and Afghanistan, this time on cartel targets just across the border. What had been a fight against crime became, legally, a war. For anyone tied to cartel networks, the designation was a nightmare. Prosecutors could now pursue terrorism charges not just for drug smuggling, but for anything deemed material support. Paying protection money, running goods through cartel corridors, and even sending family cash back home risked being recast as aiding terrorists, an offense carrying decades in prison. The first test case came quickly. Maria del Rosario Navarro Sanchez, a 39-year-old Mexican woman accused of supplying grenades to the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, was indicted as a terrorism supporter. Her golden AR-15 rifle, nicknamed El Dorado, was paraded in court as proof. The shock rippled through cartel ranks as lawyers realized the old rules of prosecution no longer applied. Trump wielded more than law. At dawn, he turned to Twitter, threatening 25% tariffs on all Mexican imports unless President Claudia Sheinbaum crushed the cartels. With $400 billion in annual trade on the line, the threat landed like a hammer. For Mexico's leaders, the past was never far away. The United States' 1914 occupation of Veracruz remained a raw memory, taught in schools, retold in family stories, and embedded in the country's politics. The sight of American forces massing at the border, captured in new satellite images, stirred those memories. Inside Sheinbaum's cabinet, comparisons to Veracruz surfaced in hushed conversations. Some warned that history had a way of circling back when least expected. In public, Sheinbaum projected defiance. Before the cameras, she denounced Washington's threats and promised that Mexico would not be bullied into submission. Her words struck the right chord for evening newscasts, giving anxious citizens the sense that their president would not bend to outside pressure. Privately, the situation was far more delicate. Trump's warnings hinted at direct military action, and the weight of those threats could not be ignored. In a calculated move, Sheinbaum authorized limited United States surveillance flights from a discreet airfield outside Mexico City. It was a concession meant to cool tempers in Washington without stirring outrage at home. The response escalated. 10,000 Mexican troops poured into the northern states, chasing the same targets Washington wanted destroyed. Behind the scenes, foreign ministers scrambled to keep diplomacy alive. Then came the shock move. Before dawn, Mexican authorities extracted 29 cartel bosses from prisons across the country. Rafael Caro Quintero, the narco of narcos, whose killing of DEA agent Enrique Camarena had poisoned relations for decades, was put on a plane. Alongside him were Vicente Carrillo Fuentes of the Juarez Cartel and the Trevino Morales brothers of Los Zetas. It was a logistical feat that looked like something from wartime. Simultaneous transfers, heavy escorts, and United States aircraft standing by to scatter prisoners to 8 different cities under federal indictment. It was also unprecedented. Mexico had always extradited piecemeal after years of legal wrangling. Sending 29 kingpins in one sweep reeked of desperation, but it worked. Trump announced a temporary freeze on tariffs, praising Mexico's cooperation while demanding further crackdowns, especially on fentanyl production. The message was clear. The cartels were no longer just criminals. They were enemies of the state, and the rules of engagement had changed. But rules on paper are one thing. Outcomes on the ground are another. When the United States government decided to label Mexican cartels as foreign terrorist organizations, it gave officials new powers to go after them. For the first time, the United States could use military-style tactics that had previously only been used against groups like Al-Qaeda overseas. The first big action was an airstrike on a Sinaloa Cartel drug lab. Right away, signs of disruption appeared. Communications showed that cartel commanders abandoned safe houses they had used for years. Supply convoys stopped running on normal routes because drivers feared being spotted from above. Even secure drug labs were left empty. Workers realized that bunkers and underground sites could not protect them from satellite-guided bombs. United States monitoring of cartel radio traffic showed leaders becoming more secretive, using codes and limiting their communication out of fear it could be tracked. This fear spread quickly. Rival leaders accused each other of working with United States intelligence, which led to violent internal purges. In Culiacan, killings rose sharply from 39 a month to 116 by October 2024, according to Insight Crime. Groups also took advantage of the chaos to fight over territory. Analysts said that trust inside the cartels was breaking down. Some cartel members who had once obeyed orders without hesitation began to grow uneasy, fearing their movements and safe houses were already known. That hesitation chipped away at discipline and made it harder for the groups to stay organized. Meanwhile, the United States pressure started to show results. In early 2025, the DEA announced record-breaking drug seizures, nearly 10,000 kilograms of fentanyl and more than 50,000 kilograms of methamphetamine, the highest amounts ever documented. Diplomatic moves soon followed. The United States paused planned tariffs for 30 days after Mexico deployed 10,000 troops to border regions and handed over 29 cartel leaders to United States custody. These moves opened space for deeper cooperation between the two governments. Cartels found ways to adapt. Some groups started looking beyond the United States, shifting more operations toward Europe and Asia. There were reports of drones being tested, either for keeping watch or for possible attacks. Others began working on cyber tools meant to interfere with government systems. Smuggling routes changed as well. More shipments went by sea through Central America, often hidden in submersibles or fast boats. Small planes were used for airdrops in desert regions, a way to dodge the satellite tracking that made land routes more dangerous. Leaders also spread out power across different cells so that one raid couldn't take down the whole network. The fentanyl crisis is still one of the biggest battles America faces. In 2024, more than 84,000 people died from overdoses, a number that shows how deep the problem runs. Experts point out that as long as people keep searching for these drugs, traffickers will always find ways to supply them. But there are signs of a shift. United States forces are no longer just responding to cartel moves. They're shutting down labs, intercepting submarines packed with drugs, and breaking up networks before shipments reach American soil. At the same time, new investments are going into treatment, mental health services, and rebuilding communities, steps that cut off the demand cartels depend on. The fight isn't over, but for the first time, America looks like it's gaining the upper hand. The cartels are under pressure, and the momentum is starting to turn. Mexico's cartel war is evolving into something far more dangerous. It's a new kind of battlefield shaped by foreign mercenaries, stolen military tech, and weapons once seen only in global conflicts. But the United States isn't watching from the sidelines. Its answer? The Navy's mysterious F/A-XX fighter. Could this next-generation war machine be the key to ending the cartel's reign of terror? Or will it spark an even deadlier arms race? Join us as we explore the capabilities of the ultimate cartel fighter, the Navy's F/A-XX. For over 20 years, Mexico has been fighting a brutal war against drug cartels. However, what began as a crackdown on smugglers has now turned into something that looks more like an internal military conflict. The cartels have evolved in every aspect and are no longer just moving drugs across the US border. They are fighting for control of Mexican land, building armies, and turning entire regions into war zones. By 2024, cartels controlled nearly 1/3 of Mexico's territory. Towns, highways, and even police forces have fallen under their grip. The goal is no longer just profit, it's power. This shift has changed the nature of the fight. What used to be a battle against crime has become a struggle against well-armed, organized, and disciplined groups that act more like insurgent forces. Cartels now use drones, armored trucks, and even homemade bombs to destroy rivals and intimidate authorities. Videos online often show drone strikes on enemy camps or convoys outfitted with mounted machine guns. These groups have also recruited foreign fighters, especially from Colombia, bringing in military-trained men who know how to run combat operations. This growing militarization has forced both Mexico and the United States to rethink their strategies. For Mexico, The challenge is strengthening security forces that are often outgunned and infiltrated by corruption. For the United States, it's about cutting off the steady stream of American-made weapons that fuel cartel arsenals. Without serious change on both sides, the violence will keep spreading. In the early days, cartels operated like businesses. They focused on logistics, buying, selling, and moving drugs as efficiently as possible. The Guadalajara cartel in the 1980s was the prime example. They didn't care about ruling towns or running extortion rings. Their mission was simple: get the product to the US and make money. But then came a new generation of cartels that wanted more. Groups like Los Zetas changed the game. Formed by former Mexican Special Forces soldiers, the Zetas turned a criminal enterprise into organized warfare. They were after both profits and control. By ruling territories, they could tax every illegal activity within them: extortion, human trafficking, kidnapping, oil theft, and drug transit fees. This territorial mindset forced cartels to grow in size and discipline. Running an area meant recruiting more men, setting up communication networks, and managing resources like an army. The chain of command became more rigid. Leaders acted like generals. Gunmen became foot soldiers. And to hold territory, they needed serious firepower, armored vehicles, explosives, and military-grade rifles. Today's cartel battles often resemble military operations. Drones hover over enemy zones, dropping grenades or filming ambushes. Convoys of trucks with steel armor, known as monstros, roll into rival strongholds. These clashes are broadcast on social media, showing the world how far cartel warfare has advanced. Experts have noted that cartels now share similar tactics and battlefield techniques. Their use of technology, such as fiber optic networks to control drones, has made them more coordinated and harder to stop. The cartels are learning from each other, blending military precision with criminal ruthlessness. What makes this war especially dangerous is that it's no longer about drugs alone. The cartels have built mini-states within Mexico, where their rules replace government law. For the civilians caught in the crossfire, daily life can feel like living in an occupied zone. The longer this continues, the more it threatens not just Mexico, but the region as a whole. If these militarized cartels keep gaining ground, they could reshape the balance of power across Latin America. The question now is simple but urgent. Can Mexico and its allies adapt fast enough to fight cartels that no longer act like criminals, but like armies? Behind the firepower of Mexico's cartels lies a constant and deadly supply line, one that flows straight from the United States. Experts call it the Iron River, a steady stream of smuggled weapons that has turned criminal groups into heavily armed militias. Each year, an estimated 200,000 to 500,000 guns cross the border illegally from the US into Mexico, feeding the country's ongoing war. Most of these weapons come from well-known American manufacturers like Smith & Wesson and reach Mexico through legal distributors and gun shops that operate with weak oversight. Once purchased, they are easily moved south by traffickers who take advantage of poor tracking systems. These guns don't just end up in the hands of ordinary criminals. They equip cartel hitmen, enforcers, and even makeshift military units capable of taking on government forces. Mexico has pushed back through the courts. In 2021, the Mexican government sued a U.S. gun manufacturer and wholesaler, accusing them of turning a blind eye to illegal trafficking. The following year, they filed another lawsuit against 5 gun stores near the border, claiming their sales practices fueled cartel violence. While both cases face legal challenges, they mark a rare attempt to hold the U.S. firearms industry accountable for the chaos its products help unleash. The reason this problem persists is the sharp difference between the two countries' gun laws. The United States has more than 75,000 licensed gun dealers, a massive supply network that's nearly impossible to fully monitor. By contrast, Mexico has just one official gun store, located inside a military base in Mexico City. The rules there are strict, the paperwork endless, and the approval process slow. For traffickers, the choice is obvious. Buy guns easily in the US, then smuggle them across the border for profit. Once these weapons reach Mexico, they change the battlefield. Cartels showcase their firepower openly in videos and photos posted online, displays meant to intimidate rivals and challenge the state. Among their most prized weapons are .50 caliber anti-materiel rifles, like the Barrett M82 and M95, both made in the United States. These massive rifles can pierce armor, walls, and vehicles with ease, giving cartels a devastating edge in combat. For many cartels, these .50 caliber rifles act as their main anti-tank tools. Rocket-propelled grenades are still rare in Mexico, so a well-placed shot from one of these rifles can destroy an armored truck or force soldiers to retreat. In several cases, Mexican forces have found themselves pinned down by cartel gunmen firing from hidden positions with weapons capable of shredding their lightly protected vehicles. Even Mexico's National Guard and police units often travel in pickup trucks or light tactical vehicles, no match for the raw power of that caliber round. It's no surprise, then, that cartels flaunt these rifles in propaganda videos, mounting them on makeshift technicals and painting their logos across the barrels. The message is clear. They're not just mere gangs anymore. They've become full-blown armies. The Iron River has done more than arm criminals. It has shifted the balance of power in Mexico's long war. With United States guns in hand, cartels can stand toe-to-toe with federal troops, forcing the government to treat them as military threats rather than street gangs. Unless the flow of weapons slows, Mexico's fight against organized crime will remain a war it struggles to win. In recent years, the Jalisco New Generation Cartel and the United Cartels have begun recruiting Colombian mercenaries, especially in the violent state of Michoacan. These aren't just ordinary gunmen. Many of them have real battlefield experience, and some even fought in Ukraine against Russian forces. By bringing in veterans trained in modern warfare, the cartels are learning new tactics and adapting lessons from international conflicts. Techniques once used in the trenches of Europe are now appearing on Mexican soil. This includes coordinated assaults, better small unit movements, and, most dangerously, the strategic use of drones for attacks. Reports suggest that Mexico's intelligence agency and Ukraine's security services are investigating a troubling trend. Cartel operatives allegedly joining the Ukrainian Foreign Legion, not to fight the war, but to receive drone warfare training. These fighters are believed to return to Mexico with new skills and strategies, using drones not just for surveillance, but for dropping explosives on targets. This new wave of drone warfare has already hit Mexico's heartland. On June 9th, the CJNG launched an attack in Juarez, Michoacan, using drones to drop explosive devices directly onto the municipal building. The strike sent shockwaves across the country, signaling that the cartels had entered a new era of high-tech violence. Military experts warn that these types of drone assaults could soon become routine in cartel conflicts. But the cartel's arsenal doesn't stop there. They also rely on monstrous, heavily armored, homemade vehicles built from civilian trucks. These rolling fortresses are reinforced with steel plates, giving them both protection and intimidation power in urban combat. Packed with mounted weapons and manned by cartel soldiers, they often look more like military convoys than criminal transports. At the same time, cartels have ramped up their use of improvised explosive devices, a tactic borrowed from insurgent warfare in the Middle East. These crude but deadly bombs have caused serious damage across northern Mexico, leading to a sharp rise in civilian casualties. The situation grew so dangerous that the U.S. State Department issued a travel warning for Tamaulipas in January after several IED incidents, one of which claimed the life of an American citizen. For the average Mexican caught in the middle, the war now feels less like organized crime and more like open combat. Cartels are blending old-school brutality with modern technology, creating hybrid warfare that confuses and overwhelms local forces. Drone attacks, armored vehicles, and bomb traps have turned once quiet towns into battlegrounds. Still, despite the sophistication of these tactics, Mexican authorities believe the cartel's capabilities remain basic compared to fundamental military forces. Photos shared by the Mexican army show seized explosives and drones that, while dangerous, are homemade and relatively primitive. Many lack precision, and their explosive payloads are often unstable or weakly constructed. This gives both Mexico and the United States a small but crucial window to act. By strengthening intelligence sharing and improving border monitoring, they can disrupt the flow of foreign fighters and advanced weapon parts before the cartels refine their craft. But while joint efforts are being pushed on the ground, another battle for control is taking shape in the skies. The Tailhook Symposium of 2025 turned into one of the most talked about events in U.S. naval aviation history. Held from August 21st to 23rd, the annual gathering of Navy and Marine aviators became the stage for a dramatic comeback. The revival of the Navy's next-generation strike fighter program, known as the FA-XX. Just months earlier, the program had been all but scrapped. The Navy's fiscal year 2026 budget request had nearly wiped out funding FA-XX fighter, raising fears that the project would be shelved for good. But thanks to pressure from lawmakers and defense advocates, the program has been brought back to life, sparking new excitement in the aerospace community. This year's Tailhook convention was filled with surprises. For the first time, Northrop Grumman revealed concept images of its stealth fighter design for the Navy, a sleek, tailless aircraft built for both speed and survivability. Its futuristic look and radar-evading shape suggests that Northrop is aiming to return to the forefront of naval aviation, decades after building the legendary B-2 Spirit bomber. Not to be outdone, Boeing showcased its own concept, a carrier-based variant of its F-47 Next Generation Air Dominance, NGAD, which is already being developed for the U.S. Air Force. The design hints that Boeing wants to unify technologies between the two branches, cutting costs while maintaining cutting-edge performance. The company's prototype model featured a sharp, stealthy profile similar to the F-47, but modified for the harsh conditions of aircraft carrier operations. The Navy's sixth-generation fighter program has had a rocky journey. It was nearly abandoned after Boeing secured the Air Force's NGAD contract, which shifted much of the government's focus and funding toward the F-47 project. Under the Trump administration, the Navy's FA-XX was placed on what many insiders called life support, as officials sought to streamline resources across the services. For years, speculation grew that the Navy might simply adapt the Air Force's jet rather than pursue a unique design. That debate still lingers, but the new showings at Tailhook 2025 prove that both Boeing and Northrop Grumman are still in the race and determined to keep the Navy's project alive. Before this budget shakeup, Lockheed Martin, the company behind the F-35 Lightning II, was reportedly dropped from the FA-XX competition, narrowing the field to just two contenders. Both remaining manufacturers have already proven their carrier capabilities with earlier drone projects. Boeing's MQ-25 Stingray, a refueling drone that successfully launched and landed on carriers, and Northrop Grumman's X-47 Bravo, the first unmanned jet to autonomously take off and land on a moving ship. These achievements give both companies a major edge as the Navy pushes for a fighter that can operate alongside or eventually replace the F/A-18 Super Hornet and the carrier-based F-35 Charlie. The future jet is expected to combine stealth, extended range, and advanced networking features that allow it to control drones in flight, a key requirement for sixth-generation aircraft. With Congress restoring funds and the competition reignited, the race for the FA-XX is back on. The Tailhook 2025 Symposium didn't just reveal aircraft concepts, it reignited a battle between America's top aerospace giants for the Navy's next era of air dominance. The FA-XX won't just be a stealthy fighter. Its real edge will be how it works with unmanned systems. Think of it less as a single jet and more as a command node that links pilots, drones, sensors, and weapons into one fighting machine. That shift is a hard break from old fighters built mainly around speed and guns. This jet is being designed for networked warfare, where unmanned aircraft act like loyal wingmen on missions. Designers are pushing the F/A-XX to outfight today's fighters in both air combat and strike missions. It aims to match or exceed the Super Hornet's role, but with much better range, speed, and killing power. Stealth will be deeper than current platforms, built so the jet survives in high-threat airspace while directing other assets. Sensor fusion will be central. The FA-XX should collect and integrate data from its own systems, satellites, other aircraft, and unmanned vehicles, providing pilots with a single, clear picture of the battlefield. A significant component will be cooperative combat aircraft, the so-called loyal wingman drones. These unmanned partners will fly loose or tight formations with manned jets, take on scouting and strike tasks, and even absorb enemy fire. FAXX systems will be able to task those drones, hand off targets, and coordinate strikes in real time. That means one pilot can control several effectors at once, spotting, jamming, or hitting targets without exposing the manned jet to direct danger. Hypersonic weapons are also on the table as potential armament, adding a new layer of strike speed and range that would complicate enemy defenses. The Navy is treating the FA-XX as a system of systems, not merely an airframe. That gives program managers room to fold in new tech faster, especially artificial intelligence and autonomy. AI could speed decision-making in high-pressure fights, run sensor fusion algorithms, and manage drone formations, so human crews can focus on strategy and critical choices. The goal is more brilliant, faster decision cycles that let a carrier strike group hit and fade before the enemy can react. Operational lessons already exist. Unmanned testing on carriers showed what works and what doesn't. Early programs demonstrated autonomous takeoffs, recoveries, and even mid-air refueling of manned jets by drones. Those trials taught DecOps integration with the carrier's Combat Information Center and how to handle unmanned traffic alongside manned aircraft. The practical takeaway: drones can handle the dull, dangerous, and persistent tasks, scouts, refuelers, and decoys, freeing manned fighters for the decisive moments. Refueling drones are a practical example. An unmanned tanker that reliably hoses fuel to fighters in a pattern reduces pilot fatigue and risk and keeps human crews focused on combat. That capability also extends mission range and recovery windows, allowing carriers to push air power farther without burning out pilots or aircraft. In a contested fight, every extra mile and minute counts. The real test for the FA-XX will be how well it fits into a carrier air wing packed with mixed crews, drones, and shipboard networks. Integration is as much about software, doctrine, and training as it is about the plane's shape. Sailors and aviators will need new procedures for the flight deck, new tactics for mixed teams, and stronger cyber defenses to keep control links secure. If the FA-XX delivers on its promise, carriers will get a force multiplier, a stealthy, long-range jet that directs swarms of drones, carries novel weapons, and makes faster, more intelligent choices in battle. That won't just replace older fighters. It will change how carrier strike groups fight, making them more distributed, more resilient, and harder to pin down. The big question left to answer: can industry and the Navy move fast enough to turn these concepts into a reliable combat system before adversaries close the gap? It would also be a very good asset in combating cartels, providing advanced surveillance, precision strike options, and unmanned support that could help disrupt cartel networks while minimizing risk to ground forces. America secretly launched the biggest drug war in history, and nobody saw it coming. While politicians threatened to bomb Mexico, the real battle was already happening on the open seas, with ghost submarines, billion-dollar military operations, and high-tech weapons that sound like science fiction. But how did the U.S. turn the entire ocean into a battlefield? And what weapons did they unleash against the cartels? Join us as we see how the United States uses its destructive power to attack Mexican cartels. The meeting room fell silent when President Trump floated the idea. Missile strikes on Mexican drug labs. Public denial if anyone asked questions. Former Defense Secretary Mark Esper would later reveal this shocking conversation in his memoir, exposing a moment when America's drug war nearly became an actual shooting war. The proposal wasn't random. By 2021, fentanyl overdoses were killing 83,000 Americans every year. The synthetic opioid had tripled its death toll between 2016 and 2021, creating a crisis that traditional law enforcement couldn't touch. Drug labs operated openly across Mexico, while tons of deadly powder flowed north across the border. The American public demanded action. Politicians needed answers. In the halls of Congress, two Republican lawmakers saw an opportunity. Congressman Dan Crenshaw from Texas and Mike Waltz from Florida drafted legislation that would change everything. The Authorization for Use of Military Force Cartel Influence Resolution borrowed language directly from the 2001 War Authorization that launched America's fight against terrorism after September 11. The bill's wording was deliberately broad. Any president could use all necessary and appropriate force against foreign organizations involved in drug trafficking or territorial control through violence. The legislation listed 9 specific cartels by name, including the powerful Sinaloa and Gulf organizations. More dangerous still, it gave the president sole authority to determine which groups qualified for military action. Legal experts immediately grasped the implications. This wasn't just authorization for targeted strikes. The phrase necessary and appropriate force, combined with presidential discretion over which nations were affiliated with cartels, could justify a full-scale invasion of Mexico. The legislation essentially handed any future president a blank check for war. While Crenshaw dismissed criticism as hysteria, other lawmakers were pushing complementary measures that built a legal framework for military action. The House Foreign Affairs Committee advanced the Project Precursor Act, requiring the State Department to classify fentanyl as a chemical weapon under international law. Chairman Michael McCall called it exactly that, claiming cartels were using chemical weapons to perpetrate mass killing of Americans. The chemical weapons designation carried explosive legal consequences. International law permits military responses to chemical weapons attacks, even without explicit congressional approval. Syria had learned this lesson when President Trump ordered missile strikes in 2017 and 2018 after Damascus used chemical weapons against its people. The precedent was clear. Chemical weapons could justify unilateral military action. 18 state attorneys general escalated the rhetoric further, formally requesting that President Biden designate fentanyl as a weapon of mass destruction. The letter invoked memories of the Bush administration's justification for invading Iraq. A Justice Department legal opinion from that era concluded that presidents have constitutional authority to use force against weapons of mass destruction threats, even without Congress. Senator Lindsey Graham introduced his own legislation designating 9 Mexican cartels as foreign terrorist organizations. The designation would impose financial sanctions and criminalize any support for these groups. More significantly, it would place cartels in the same legal category as Al-Qaeda and other organizations America has spent decades fighting with military force. Each piece of legislation built upon the others, creating overlapping justifications for military action. Chemical weapons, weapons of mass destruction, terrorist organizations, authorization for unlimited force. The legal architecture for war was taking shape in Washington while cartels continued their operations across the border, unaware that America's political establishment was seriously considering turning the metaphorical war on drugs into something far more literal and devastating. While politicians debated war, cartels were already building one? But where? Deep in the Colombian jungle, the sound of hammering echoes through humid air, thick with mosquitoes and diesel fumes. Under a canopy so dense that satellites cannot penetrate, teams of workers shape fiberglass and wood into something that shouldn't exist. They're building submarines by hand, using blueprints drawn by men who never attended naval engineering school. The first narco submarine appeared in the 1980s as a simple underwater tube towed behind fishing boats. Colombian cartels learned quickly that the ocean floor hides better than any warehouse. By the 1990s, they had graduated to self-powered vessels constructed in remote jungle clearings where military patrols rarely venture. Today's narco submarines represent a quantum leap in criminal engineering. These 80-foot vessels can travel 2,500 miles without refueling while carrying 10 tons of pure cocaine. Each submarine costs between $1 and $2 million to build in secret workshops, but the cargo they transport sells for over $150 million on American streets. 5 crew members endure weeks in cramped, overheated compartments with minimal food and no communication with the outside world. The submarines operate just below the surface, leaving almost no wake for patrol aircraft to spot. Engineers paint them blue-gray to match ocean colors, while streamlined hulls slice through water with minimal disturbance. Some models include lead lining that blocks heat signatures from military thermal imaging systems. The most sophisticated versions can dive completely underwater for short periods, disappearing from radar and sonar detection entirely. When authorities do locate a narco submarine, Capturing it becomes nearly impossible. Each vessel includes specialized scuttle valves that can flood the compartments within minutes. Crews open these valves the moment they spot military aircraft or patrol boats, sending millions of dollars worth of evidence to the ocean floor in waters thousands of feet deep, where recovery is impossible. The submarine threat reached global proportions in 2024 when Operation Orion intercepted a vessel bound for Australia. The submarine had traveled over 10,000 miles across the Pacific Ocean, proving that cartels now possessed intercontinental capabilities. Intelligence agencies suddenly realized they were tracking not regional smuggling operations, but a shadow navy with worldwide reach. Above the surface, go-fast boats present an equally formidable challenge. These 30-foot vessels mount 3 or 4 250-horsepower outboard motors, creating floating rockets capable of exceeding 80 miles per hour on open water. Drug runners paint them ocean blue and load them with 2,000 gallons of extra fuel, enabling 500-mile journeys without stopping. The boats trace their lineage to Prohibition-era rum runners who perfected the art of outrunning Coast Guard cutters in the 1920s. Modern cartels simply updated the concept with contemporary technology. Each go-fast carries a single pilot to maximize cargo space, racing across international waters faster than most patrol boats can follow. The Coast Guard responded by creating hit-drone helicopter teams equipped with precision rifles and trained snipers. When patrol aircraft spot a fleeing go-fast, helicopters swoop down from above, while marksmen use 50-caliber rifles to disable engines without harming crew members. The tactic proved so effective that cartels began disguising their speedboats as fishing vessels and developing hybrid craft that combine submarine stealth with surface speed. Intelligence estimates suggest that for every narco submarine or go-fast boat intercepted, 3 or 4 complete their missions successfully, delivering billions in drugs while their invisible armada grows stronger. How did 62 nations unite to destroy cartel empires? As drug cartels became too powerful for any single nation to manage, the world decided to collaborate. In January of 2012, an alliance was formed with a strong name for a challenging mission: Operation Martillo, meaning hammer in Spanish. 14 countries, including the United States, the United Kingdom, France, Spain, Guatemala, and Honduras, joined forces. Operation Martillo was not just another failed drug war initiative. It targeted the cartels where it hurt most: their shipping routes. Military ships, aircraft, and special forces patrolled the waters between South America and the United States, creating a formidable barrier for drug shipments to navigate. The results were swift. In the first year alone, authorities arrested 339 smugglers and seized 101 boats carrying drugs. In 2011, the operation confiscated 119 tons of cocaine, worth an estimated $2.35 billion on American streets. Authorities also seized $21 million in cash heading back to the cartels and $16 million worth of goods used to conceal or transport the drugs. Operation Martillo was only the beginning. In late 2024, Operation Orion took the multinational effort to a new level. This time, 62 countries participated, ranging from small nations with limited coastlines to major powers with large navies. Over 6 intense weeks, they shared intelligence, tracked suspicious vessels, and intercepted drug shipments across global waters. No previous drug operation had matched the success of Orion. The operation seized 225 tons of cocaine in one sweep, a world record. When combined with more than 1,000 tons of marijuana and other drugs, the total haul exceeded $8.5 billion in street value. Each country brought distinct strengths to the effort. The Americans provided advanced radar systems capable of detecting small boat wakes from satellites. The Dutch contributed underwater drones to inspect ships. Colombian forces used their expertise to locate launch sites in the jungle. Even landlocked nations are assisted by tracking money and communications. What made Orion revolutionary was not just its scale, but its advanced coordination. Military commanders from numerous countries collaborated in real-time command centers, sharing live intelligence and executing raids across multiple time zones simultaneously. When smugglers attempted to alter their routes after hearing about a bust, they would end up sailing into another country's patrol zone. These operations did more than remove drugs from the streets. They collected valuable intelligence. Each captured sailor, boat, and communication device offered new insights into cartel operations. Smuggling route maps became more detailed, and lists of cartel contacts grew longer. With every bust, the price of cocaine on American streets increased as supplies dwindled. The message was clear: the open seas were no longer safe for drug traffickers, regardless of how advanced their hiding methods were. With nations united against them, cartels required more effective tools to evade capture. But cartels didn't anticipate America's secret weapon at sea. How did one ship alone cost drug lords $500 million? In early 2025, one ship instilled fear in drug lords across South America. The United States Coast Guard cutter James became a floating nightmare for cartels during a relentless 112-day mission that drug kingpins still discuss in hushed tones. The cutter James is no ordinary vessel. At 418 feet long, this legend-class cutter is like a floating city with one purpose: hunting down drug smugglers. It carries a crew of 150 highly trained men and women who work in shifts around the clock. The ship can remain at sea for months without returning to port, making it the perfect predator for tracking drug routes. What made the 2025 mission extraordinary was its remarkable success. In just under 4 months, this single ship seized over 48,000 pounds of narcotics, enough to supply a mid-sized American city for a year. The street value reached approximately $510 million, making it one of the most financially devastating blows ever dealt to cartel operations. The January operations were particularly impressive. On January 5th, the ship's crew launched a drone that spotted a suspicious vessel off Ecuador's coast. Unlike regular military drones, the Coast Guard uses special maritime models that can fly for 18 hours straight while carrying advanced cameras capable of reading a boat's name from miles away. The drones silently tracked the vessel from high above until boarding teams swooped in, catching 3 smugglers with over 2,025 pounds of cocaine. Just 1 day later, on January 6th, they hit the jackpot. Maritime patrol aircraft working with the cutter James spotted 3 go-fast boats traveling together, an unusual and risky move for smugglers. Using their helicopter teams, they managed to stop all 3 boats in a perfectly coordinated operation, capturing 9 suspects and an enormous haul of 13,960 pounds of cocaine. The smugglers changed tactics on January 7th, deploying a low-profile vessel, a boat specifically designed to avoid radar detection. But the hit-run helicopter crew was ready. Using precision shooting skills, they disabled the boat's engines without harming the crew. Another 8,240 pounds of cocaine never made it to American streets. When smugglers tried to escape capture by dumping their cargo on January 18th, the cutter James didn't give up. Its high-speed pursuit boats chased down the smugglers, while other team members retrieved the floating drug packages from the sea. The recovered cargo, nearly 6,000 pounds of cocaine, would have brought cartels millions in profits. The Navy joined forces as well. Ships like the USS Minneapolis-St. Paul and USS St. Louis conducted their own busts in the Caribbean, adding hundreds more kilograms of captured cocaine to the total. These operations struck the Sinaloa and Jalisco New Generation cartels especially hard. Intelligence gathered during the missions revealed key smuggling routes, identified cartel members, and exposed new trafficking methods, all of which are now being used to plan the next wave of interdictions to further disrupt these criminal empires. But who controls these floating fortresses stalking the seas? Inside a nondescript building in Key West, Florida, sits the nerve center of America's maritime war on drugs. The Joint Interagency Task Force South operates 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, orchestrating the most complex anti-narcotics campaign in history. The command center resembles a high-tech war room from a blockbuster film. Massive wall-mounted screens display real-time maps of the Caribbean and Pacific, dotted with hundreds of moving icons representing every vessel, aircraft, and submarine in American territorial waters. Each blinking light tells a story. Friendly naval patrols, commercial shipping, suspicious go-fast boats racing through the darkness, or semi-submersible narco subs creeping beneath the waves. At workstations arranged in precise rows, analysts from a dozen different agencies monitor the digital battlefield. FBI counterintelligence specialists sit alongside Navy radar operators. DEA drug enforcement experts collaborate with Coast Guard boarding teams. CIA analysts share classified intelligence with customs officers tracking suspicious cargo movements. Representatives from allied nations, Colombia, Panama, and the Netherlands provide real-time updates from their own patrol zones. The integration runs deeper than shared office space. When a surveillance satellite detects an unusual heat signature off the Colombian coast, that information instantly appears on screens throughout the facility. Within minutes, analysts cross-reference the coordinates with known smuggling routes, weather patterns, and the current positions of American interdiction assets. A Coast Guard cutter 300 miles away receives new orders. A Navy helicopter launches from a forward base. A drone silently adjusts course to begin tracking the suspicious contact. This seamless coordination represents a revolutionary approach to maritime law enforcement. Traditional drug interdiction relied on chance encounters, patrol boats stumbling across smugglers during routine sweeps. JAF South transformed that reactive strategy into a predictive science. Powerful computer algorithms analyze years of seizure data, weather patterns, economic indicators, and cartel communication intercepts to generate probability maps showing where drug shipments will most likely appear. The command center maintains direct communication links with assets across two oceans. When USS Minneapolis-St. Paul reports radar contact with 3 high-speed vessels traveling in formation, JIDF analysts immediately recognize the signature of a major cocaine shipment. Within seconds, they vector additional ships toward the intercept point while launching maritime patrol aircraft to provide aerial surveillance. The response unfolds with military precision. LEDET teams, law enforcement detachment units, serve as the operational bridge between military assets and law enforcement authority. These specially trained Coast Guard personnel deploy aboard Navy warships, solving a critical legal challenge. Military forces possess sophisticated detection equipment and heavy firepower, but lack arrest authority in peacetime operations. Coast Guard teams bring that legal mandate, transforming destroyers and frigates into floating police stations. The technological edge extends beyond traditional radar and sonar systems. Advanced synthetic aperture radar can distinguish between different vessel types from orbit, identifying the distinctive wake signatures of narco subs running just below the surface. Infrared sensors detect the heat signatures of multiple outboard motors characteristic of go-fast boats. Communication intercept equipment monitors radio chatter and cell phone calls, often providing advance warning of planned smuggling runs. Intelligence flows in both directions through the network. Every interdiction generates valuable data about cartel operations, smuggling routes, and trafficking methods. Captured GPS devices reveal hidden supply caches. Arrested smugglers provide information about organizational structures. Seized communications expose cartel leadership hierarchies and financial networks. The command center maintains strategic partnerships extending far beyond American territorial waters. When British naval forces operating in the Caribbean spot suspicious activity, that intelligence immediately reaches Key West. Dutch patrol vessels near the Venezuelan coast share radar tracks with American analysts. Colombian Marine units conducting riverine operations upstream report trafficking patterns that help predict coastal interdiction opportunities. This networked approach fundamentally altered the strategic balance in America's maritime drug war. Cartels once operated with impunity across vast oceanic expanses, confident that the sheer scale of international waters provided adequate protection. JAF South eliminated those safe havens by creating an integrated surveillance network spanning thousands of square miles of ocean. The psychological impact on trafficking organizations proved equally significant. Smugglers no longer face isolated patrol boats operating independently. They confront a coordinated intelligence apparatus that tracks their movements from production facilities in South America to distribution networks in North America. Every captured shipment provides additional data points, gradually mapping the entire criminal enterprise. From this Florida command post, America projects maritime power across 2 hemispheres, turning the open ocean into a controlled battlefield where drug traffickers face overwhelming technological and operational disadvantages. Cartels have evolved. Now they fly drones, armor up convoys, and even test homemade submarines to smuggle cash and weapons. But what happens when the world's most advanced military tech faces that cunning? Could these futuristic tools finally give authorities the upper hand and change the rules of the game forever? Join us as we uncover these anti-Mexican cartel military technologies that will blow your mind. Across Mexico, the country's most powerful cartels are locked in a brutal arms race that's changing the drug war. They're not only fighting government troops under U.S. pressure to crush the drug trade, but also battling one another for control of smuggling routes. Civilians are caught in the crossfire, and once quiet regions have turned into war zones. Gone are the days when these groups relied only on handguns and rifles. Today, cartel fighters use rocket-propelled grenades, homemade mortars made from gas tanks, and trucks fitted with heavy machine guns. They bury landmines, scatter booby traps, and modify store-bought drones into flying bombs packed with toxic gas and explosives. Authorities in Michoacan recently showed piles of makeshift bombs built from plastic bottles, fire extinguishers, and even cut drain pipes, proof of how creative and deadly the cartels have become. These groups now possess the kind of weapons used by terrorists and armies. According to Mexican officials, much of that firepower comes from across the border, with around 500,000 American guns smuggled into Mexico every year. Criminals have also begun making their own weapons, even using 3D printers to build parts. Nowhere shows this deadly transformation more clearly than Tierra Caliente, a region of mountains and farmland that serves as a vital drug corridor. There, rival cartels, including La Familia Michoacana, the Knights Templar, and the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, are locked in a constant fight for control. In the past 2 years, Michoacan has recorded more mine explosions than anywhere else in Mexico. Farming towns that once grew avocados and lemons now sit half-empty. Many families have fled after repeated attacks, while those who stay live under constant threat. More than 2,000 people have been displaced in just 2 years. Even children have died from hidden explosives buried along their paths to school. This level of militarization can be traced back to the mid-2000s, when Los Zetas, a cartel founded by former soldiers, introduced military tactics, encrypted radios, and battlefield discipline to organized crime. Their rivals quickly copied them, turning the drug trade into a full-scale war. In response, Mexico's military brought in better weapons and technology, often with U.S. support. The turning point came in 2015 when gunmen in Jalisco shot down a Mexican Army helicopter with a rocket launcher, killing 6 soldiers. It was the first time a criminal group had destroyed a military aircraft in Mexico, a sign that the cartels had crossed into true paramilitary territory. By 2022, Mexican intelligence confirmed that cartels were using drones, landmines, and coordinated attacks regularly. Security analyst Alexei Chavez called it a shift toward paramilitary warfare. Cheap, easy-to-modify drones have changed the battlefield. Like in Ukraine, cartels now use them to spy, bomb, and strike with precision. Even the drones have given the cartels the power to hit deep inside enemy territory, targets that were unreachable before. As tensions grow with Washington, cartels have begun importing scanners to detect government drones and hiring skilled operators to track and evade them. It's obvious that the battlefield is evolving, and so are the tools used to fight it. To counter those new defenses, authorities have begun repurposing existing kits for the fight. Among these tools are the compact armed VTOL drones, which are deadly effective when deployed against smugglers. These drones lift straight up, hover over rough ground, and fire precision rounds at moving or fixed targets, letting security forces strike cartel convoys or fortified positions without sending troops into deadly ambushes. That standoff capability is vital because it reduces risk to patrols and allows focused disruption of cartel movement. Lightweight laser-guided missiles that small drones can carry bring true anti-vehicle power to units that once had none. These weapons can punch through light armor, stop pickup trucks used for smuggling, and force cartel fighters to abandon heavy shields. When ground teams lack armored support, a few precision missiles on demand deny enemy freedom of movement and fragment supply lines, slowing trafficking and making territory harder for cartels to hold. Precision coastal and anti-armor missiles extend the reach of tactical policing. Compact missiles with accurate guidance let forces hit hardened caches, improvised launch sites, or boats running the coast without broad bombardment. That accuracy keeps civilian harm lower and gives commanders options to remove key cartel assets at distance, a major advantage when cartels hide among civilian infrastructure. Defensive tools like handheld drone net launchers keep soldiers and police safer from hostile UAVs. Nets bring down small attack drones quickly and cheaply, blocking cartel reconnaissance and crude bombing. By denying cartels easy drone use, these countermeasures blunt one of the fastest-growing threats and protect checkpoints, convoys, and airspace over towns. Heavy-lift electric VTOLs and tandem-rotor small aircraft change logistics in hard countries. They carry supplies, batteries, medevac loads, sensors, or a small squad to remote villages without creating long, vulnerable convoys. That mobility shortens response times, keeps pressure on cartel hideouts, and lets security forces maintain presence where roads are mined or watched by lookout posts. Tethered aerostats and low-cost persistent sensors act as fixed sentries over river valleys, roads, and farms. Left aloft for days, they spot convoy routes and transient camps, turning fleeting movements into confirmed targets. Persistent surveillance lets force time raids for moments when cartel fighters are exposed, increasing the chance of capturing leaders and seizing drugs rather than trading gunfire in populated areas. Layered systems matter most when combined. Persistent eyes detect, small VTOLs inspect and strike, counter-drone tools protect forces, and heavy lifts move teams quickly. That layered approach shortens the decision loop. Find, fix, finish. For anti-cartel campaigns, this lowers collateral damage, raises arrest rates, and makes it harder for gangs to hide logistics in the hills or move product through towns. Cost and training are practical strengths. Small drones and net guns are cheaper to buy and operate than attack helicopters or large missile systems, so police and military units can field them broadly. Widespread deployment denies cartels safe spaces and forces them to change tactics, a strategic pressure point that undermines their ability to operate at scale. Building on that same idea of affordable innovation, a helium surveillance balloon offers another edge. Able to stay aloft for up to 20 days, it becomes a cheap, persistent eye over contested valleys. Launched in minutes and able to watch a 10-kilometer circle while extending FPV drone links twice that far, it turns fleeting movement into patterns you can act on. For the war against cartels, persistence matters. Cartels move at night, hide caches in folds of terrain, and rotate teams quickly. A long-endurance balloon reveals routes and camps that ground patrols miss, letting forces plan raids with better timing and fewer surprises. Which is why mobility is important for officials. A small, all-terrain robotic scout operating up to 15 kilometers out gives operators an unmanned forward presence, and because it can run at 60 kilometers per hour for hours on a single charge while carrying modular sensors or light payloads, it scouts roads, sniffs for traps, and carries tiny strike or recovery kits. That matters in practice. The robot keeps people out of the danger zone and finds IEDs or ambush points before a patrol stumbles into them, so units move smarter, not harder. Meanwhile, armored personnel carriers built for modern conflict protect troops and press into contested towns. A 15-ton, remotely turreted APC resists rifle rounds and shrapnel while delivering automatic fire from distance, which lets security forces clear hostile compounds with lower risk, deny cartel checkpoints, and shield medevacs and evidence teams, protecting lives while stripping cartel freedom of action. At the same time, short-range air defense systems that fire radar-guided missiles close a major gap. Low-flying aircraft and attack drones. Because a mobile point defense unit reaches several kilometers day or night, it can intercept helicopters and armed UAVs before they reach a strike zone, stopping aerial resupply and forcing gangs to change tactics. And when infantry need immediate protection, portable electronic weapons step in. Lightweight anti-drone rifles pulse electromagnetic interference a few kilometers out to drop hostile quadcopters and scramble swarms, which means checkpoints, convoys, and urban raids are less likely to be watched from above, keeping evidence gathers, informants, and movements safer. Layer these pieces together and you get a low-collateral, layered toolkit. Long loiter balloons and fixed sensors pick a target. Robotic scouts or low-risk drones confirm and market. Precision systems or armored vehicles finish the job. That approach reduces civilian harm, raises the odds of capturing leaders alive, and closes escape routes, hitting cartel logistics instead of only foot soldiers. Cheap, fast tools change the map. So do cheap, fast logistics. When cost and speed let more units move and fight, mobility stops being a luxury and becomes a multiplier for every other tactic. This is where the French EPA amphibious rig comes into play. The French EPA amphibious rig moves across rivers and marshes like a workhorse that ignores water. Able to ferry 70 tons on its own or pair with another to haul 150 tons, it can lay a temporary bridge of 100 meters in under 10 minutes. In the war against cartels, that rapid river crossing power keeps supply lines open for security forces, lets reinforcements reach remote strongholds fast, and prevents gangs from using water barriers as safe escape routes. When roads are wrecked or bridges destroyed, 4 of these rigs can create a crossing that passes 200 vehicles an hour. At over 30 meters long and with a large loading surface, a crew of 4 can run multiple crossings per hour and sustain an offensive or humanitarian corridor. For anti-cartel campaigns, that means convoys of evidence teams, armored patrols, and emergency medical units can move reliably where cartels try to isolate communities and block state access. Thermal camouflage changes the game for small teams operating near cartel hideouts. A lightweight thermal umbrella or ghost hood masks heat signatures over several square meters and works across bitter cold to blistering heat. In the war against cartels, hiding heat signatures keep surveillance drones and infrared scouts from spotting insertion points or observation posts, letting special forces gather evidence and place trackers without turning the mission into a firefight. Discreet personal protection also matters. A compact bulletproof umbrella and a rapid deploy ballistic blanket give immediate cover for 1 or 2 people, stopping common pistol and magnum rounds while looking ordinary. In anti-cartel operations, such gear protects undercover officers, witness protection escorts, and journalists in ambush-prone towns, saving lives while preserving mobility and the element of surprise during extractions or raids. Larger perimeter systems, like an integrated anti-drone shield, provide broad protection for bases and checkpoints. A 200-kilogram station with radar and electro-optical sensors spots hostile UAVs out to 5 kilometers and links to jammers for rapid defeat. For the war against cartels, this means forward operating sites, evidence processing camps, and medical hubs can stay online without constant drone harassment or remote observation that would give gang scouts an edge. You can shut down enemy eyes in the air and harden forward hubs, but who actually carries the mission into remote, contested terrain? Enter the Mission Master, a rugged robotic pack mule which can be repurposed for anti-cartel operation. This 2,000-kilogram unmanned ground vehicle carries up to 600 kilograms of supplies at 40 kilometers per hour across a 200-kilometer range. Equipped with a 7.62-millimeter machine gun, it provides both logistics and fire support in combat zones. With over 24 hours of battery life using a range extender, this 3.5-meter beast handles extreme conditions from desert heat to Arctic snow and swims thanks to amphibious capability. Its autonomous navigation, obstacle avoidance, and drone integration allow it to scout, resupply, and fight without putting humans in harm's way, making it perfect for anti-cartel operations where every minute counts. While Mission Master hauls the overland AI ultraventures where humans dare not go. Weighing 1,500 kilograms, this autonomous vehicle speeds at 50 kilometers per hour over a 150-kilometer range in contested areas beyond line-of-sight communication. Carrying 500 kilograms of mission-specific payload, it uses AI-driven navigation and target recognition. Even when GPS signals are jammed, it can deploy reconnaissance drones, becoming a mobile command center for surveillance, logistics, and combat. For cartels operating in remote terrain, it's a game changer, allowing security forces to monitor and respond to threats before criminals even know they are observed. At sea, the Petria Sanaka CS is a 200-kilogram acoustic mine countermeasure system. Using low-frequency sound waves, it detects and neutralizes underwater mines up to 500 meters away. Deployable from ships or unmanned surface vehicles, it works in harsh environments, including Arctic waters, ensuring safe maritime patrols and anti-smuggling operations. This sonar system makes waterways safe for naval interdiction teams, allowing them to reach cartel trafficking routes without risk. The Capstone UAV acts as a flying ambulance. Using coaxial rotors with two 5-meter blades, it carries 300 kilograms of payload across 483 kilometers during 8-hour missions. Designed for medical evacuation and resupply in areas inaccessible to traditional helicopters, it autonomously lands and flies while keeping crews safe. In the cartel war, Capstone ensures injured officers or civilians receive rapid aid in dangerous zones, saving lives while minimizing risk. The American Millennium Gun protects ships from low-flying threats. Weighing 3,300 kilograms, it fires 35mm rounds at 1,000 per minute in full auto or 200 per minute for precision. With ranges of 3,500 meters for air targets and 5,000 meters for surface targets, programmable airburst rounds make it a no-fly zone. Cartel drones or small boats attempting attacks are neutralized before they become a threat. For field fortifications, the Maxi Printer 3D prints bunkers up to 6 meters high and 12 meters wide in 24 hours. Setup takes under 15 minutes with centimeter-level precision. Meanwhile, RAL's plastic trench system allows modular defensive positions to be assembled silently in under 2 hours. Together, they let troops quickly secure territory against cartel incursions. But building protection is only half the battle. Holding it demands accuracy and awareness. That's where next-generation targeting and clearance tools come. In precision gets surgical with the Smash 2000 LAI scope, a compact 1.1 kilogram sight that lands hits on small drones with a 95% probability out to 300 meters. On the ground, danger is buried, which is why the Doing MV-10 exists. An 18,960 kilogram mine-clearing beast that strips away 4,000 square meters of mines each hour, while operators stay a full kilometer back. Together, they shrink the kill zone and let units move when cartels think the Earth is their ally. Once routes are safe, the fight follows the traffickers into the water. Meet the Shadow Seal, a stealthy amphibious craft that makes ordinary boats look clumsy. At 12 meters and 5 tons, it roars across the surface at 55 kilometers per hour and slips beneath at 9. With room for a pilot, navigator, and 2 passengers, and remote control capability, even from a PlayStation-style controller, it slips into shallow coastal lanes and choke points where smugglers hide, turning the ocean from a blind alley into a hunted space. On land, the Mars, the modular advanced armed robotic system, acts like a relentless mechanical bodyguard. This 165-kilogram, 1.1-meter-tall robot can carry a 7.62mm machine gun or a 40mm grenade launcher and operate securely from up to 1 kilometer away. With full 360-degree vision, it scouts, clears danger zones, evacuates the wounded, and ferries supplies along hot routes, keeping people out of the most dangerous jobs in the anti-cartel campaign. When rooms and tunnels must be checked, Bounce Imaging's throwable camera sphere makes the first steps safe. Softball to grapefruit size, the rugged orb delivers live, full 360 video and infrared for low-light ops, survives hard impacts, and streams to Android and iOS devices for roughly 2 hours. A tiny, brave eye that saves lives during breaches and compound searches. Farther out, the Saildrone Surveyor watches the sea without sleeping. This 20-meter autonomous vessel runs on wind and solar for up to 12 months, carrying 500 kilograms of sensors while cruising at 13 kilometers per hour. Radar, sonar, cameras, and seafloor mapping to 11,000 meters turn long stretches of ocean into monitored lanes, spotting hidden routes and trailing smugglers before cargo ever reaches shore. And when logistics and endurance decide outcomes, the mission master answers the call. This 2,000-kilogram unmanned ground vehicle hauls 600 kilograms at 40 kilometers per hour across a 200-kilometer range, runs more than 24 hours on extended power packs, and even offers amphibious capability. As an anti-cartel robotic logistician, it moves gear, evacuates casualties, and keeps convoys lighter, faster, and less exposed to ambush. Stacked together, these systems, precision scopes, mine-clearing giants, stealthy amphibious craft, Armed robots, throwable scouts, long-endurance sail drones, and heavy unmanned transport form a layered, relentless network against mobile, well-armed criminal networks. Deep in the Pacific, a U.S. Navy warship tracked a floating drug lab worth millions, its location betrayed by a web of intelligence and high-tech surveillance. What followed was swift, precise, and devastating, leaving nothing but smoke and scattered debris on the waves. This is the story of how a cartel drug lab was wiped off the map by the U.S. Navy strike. In early 2025, one ship instilled fear in drug lords. For 112 days, the USCGC James, a Legend-class cutter and the fifth of its kind, prowled the eastern Pacific like a steel shadow. It wasn't a single dramatic chase on TV. It was a steady, grinding push. Planes up early, drones buzzing the horizon, speedboats slicing the waves, and crews watching screens in the dark until the job was done. The James is built for this. On its deck sits a 57mm gun and a phalanx close-in weapon system. There are multiple 50 caliber and 7.62mm machine guns ready to fire, and room below decks for future upgrades. Mine warfare gear, non-line of sight missiles, and even the option to swap the phalanx for a CRAM system. It's a cutter designed not just to sail, but to change the rules of the fight. The mission read like a relay of precision. Surveillance planes and thermal imagers would spot suspicious wakes miles offshore. Drones would move in to get eyes on suspect boats. The cutter and its smaller craft would close fast. In these operations, the crews used every tool they had: drones, aircraft, ships, thermal cameras, and speedy intercept boats. And sometimes the results came all at once. Across runs off the coasts of Peru, Ecuador, and near the Galapagos Islands, crews reported a string of victories. On January 5th, a long-endurance maritime drone climbed a patrol height and locked onto a lone smuggler off Ecuador. These Coast Guard drones can fly for 18 hours and carry cameras sharp enough to read a boat's name from miles away. The drone watched the suspect while the crew planned a quiet intercept. When boarding teams moved in, they found 3 men and 2,250 pounds of cocaine hidden aboard. That small strike set the tone. Tiny signs, huge payoff. The next day, January 6th, the operation escalated. Patrol aircraft spotted 3 go-fast boats racing in formation. Risky for the smugglers, bold for the cutters. Helicopter crews and the James's team synchronized like a clock. The helicopters cut off escape routes while small boats closed in. In the end, all 3 boats were stopped. 9 suspects were arrested, and the haul totaled 13,960 pounds of cocaine. It was one of those rare, clean wins where technology, timing, and courage matched up. On January 7th, the smugglers tried a different trick. A low-profile boat built to slip past radar. But Hytron, the helicopter interdiction crew, was ready. Instead of shooting to kill, they used precision shots to put the engines out of commission, leaving the vessel dead in the water. The crew was detained unharmed, and another 8,240 pounds of cocaine was taken off the map. Smugglers refused to quit. On January 18th, when they tried to dump contraband to lighten their load, the James didn't relent. Its high-speed pursuit boats chased down the suspects while tech teams scooped floating bales from the sea. Recovering nearly 6,000 pounds of cocaine from choppy water is ugly, cold work. Crews risked hypothermia, reefed through oil and salt, and hauled soggy bales aboard. But those bales meant millions lost to the cartels and lives potentially spared on the streets. Taken together, these days show a clear pattern: surveillance that never blinks, helicopters that hit their mark, and boarding teams who do the dangerous work up close. Official tallies in the mission mention drugs seized in 13 interdictions in the Eastern Pacific, while a later offload on March 20th totaled nearly 46,000 pounds taken in 14 interdictions. The numbers jump around because the action was constant and reports were updated as cases closed. What's clear is the size of the haul: almost 45,000 pounds of pure uncut cocaine, plus roughly 3,800 pounds of marijuana, drugs valued at more than $517.5 million. Across the missions, 34 suspected smugglers were taken into custody. In one sweep, more than a dozen suspects were detained after 6 separate interdictions. For families, towns, and communities back home, The Coast Guard framed the math in stark human terms. This seizure could mean hundreds of lives spared from the grip of addiction and thousands fewer people exposed to pure cocaine on U.S. streets. Top law enforcement voices put the mission in even sharper terms. U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi said what the crews did saved countless American lives and warned that the cocaine intercepted on those seas would otherwise have been distributed across the country, maybe even the world. Officials tied many of the shipments back to powerful cartels, naming the Jalisco New Generation and Sinaloa groups as heavily tied to these runs. Briefly, the cartel's playbook looks familiar. Fast boats, hidden compartments, rendezvous points far from shore, and a brutal next man up culture that has kept the flow moving for years. That next man up idea is exactly what the strike aimed to break. Officials in the mission rhetoric promised a hard line. The traffickers were being treated less like organized crime and more like foreign terrorists in a way that would strip them of their freedom to roam. Voices in the administration vowed to lock these networks down, to remove the safety nets that let a new boss step in and pick up where another left off. The public math officials used was blunt and meant to land. When authorities said over $500 million in illegal drugs were interdicted at sea, they didn't only mean dollars. They argued that the figure equated to lives not lost to overdose, users not introduced to cocaine, and real savings in health and incarceration costs. One calculation cited from the mission estimated 154 lives saved directly from cocaine-related overdose deaths, nearly 11,000 fewer new cocaine users, and around $16.5 million avoided in inmate care and health expenses. Those are big claims, and they are the kind that make a mission feel like more than a headline. They make it feel like an intervention with long, measurable effects. On deck, the work was simpler and grittier. Sailors studied radar blips and night vision screens. Pilots timed intercepts, and small boat crews executed the dangerous leap from cutter to target. For cartel crews on those suspect boats, the James and its partners became a nightmare. Drones and aircraft moved silently. Teams closed in. Evidence and drugs were seized. Men were handcuffed. Boats were scuttled or turned over. The sea, for a time, did not belong to the smugglers. A string of interdictions, a mountain of contraband, and dozens of arrests didn't finish the job. Cartels adapt. But the cutter James did not work alone. Backing the cutter every step of the way was the USCG Mohawk, a 270-foot medium-endurance cutter that brought a different kind of muscle to the hunt. While the James carried long-reach, high-tech sensors and aerial assets, the Mohawk filled gaps with steady seamanship, hands-on law enforcement, and a crew trained to do many jobs at once. Home-ported in Key West, the Mohawk is built for long patrols and quick pivots. One day it might hunt a smuggler, the next it could pull a survivor from choppy water or run a joint exercise with allied ships. That multi-mission mindset mattered. Interdiction in the Eastern Pacific often requires more than speed or eyes in the sky. Mohawk boarding teams softened targets up close, searching hidden holds, processing evidence, and taking suspects into custody. Their steady presence let the James keep planes and drones focused on new threats farther out. The Mohawk also brought international reach. Its crews worked with partner navies and coast guards to share intelligence and coordinate patrols, closing gaps that traffickers once exploited. Those partnerships turned isolated strikes into a sustained squeeze, making routes riskier and plans harder to hide. At sea, the two cutters made a simple, effective pair. Different tools, same goal. The James could spot a runner miles away and push the chase. The Mohawk could climb aboard, secure the scene, and handle the paperwork and people that follow. Planes overhead, cutters on scene, and boarding teams clearing boats. The layers of effort built a net that was hard to escape. For smugglers used to slipping past one patrol at a time, the combination was brutal, patient, persistent, and precise. Their teamwork sent a clear message. The sea was no longer a safe route. It bought time for law enforcement ashore to follow leads effectively. The strikes hit the Sinaloa and Jalisco New Generation cartels hard, but the sea work was only one part of the fight. What pulled all the pieces together sat quietly in Key West, GMIATF South. Think of it as a brains and tools hub where the US and partner nations turn loose pieces of information into real-world arrests. JIATF isn't dramatic in the movie sense. It looks ordinary from the street. Inside, though, it hums like a machine. Analysts watch screens filled with maps. They read satellite photos, radar tracks, and ship transponders. They pore over phone data and tip lines. Bits of data from customs, foreign navies, and undercover agents arrive in the same room. That is its power. Everything sits next to everything else, so patterns jump out fast. When a pattern appears, JIATF does two things at once. First, it predicts. Using years of case files and computer models, analysts make heat maps that show where smugglers will likely try to move next. Those maps are gold. They let the Coast Guard and Navy position cutters, planes, and helicopters in the best spots, sometimes days before a run even begins. Second, JIATF acts. It can task ships and aircraft directly. That speed matters. Drug boats can disappear in minutes once they see they've been found. One of JIATF's smartest moves is putting lead-at teams on Navy ships. These are small groups of Coast Guard law enforcement experts who can board a boat and make arrests. The Navy brings big sensors and long legs at sea. The Coast Guard brings the legal authority to take criminals off ships. Together, they work like a tag team. Navy finds, Coast Guard finishes. The intelligence from these sea fights does more than stop loads. It fingerprints and networks. Every arrest, every radio intercept, every seized phone can point to bosses inland. Analysts trace payment routes, identify safe houses, and map who meets whom. With that work, prosecutors can build cases that reach past low-level smugglers to the people who organize the runs. International partners are vital too. JIATF shares leads with law enforcement in South America, Europe, and beyond. Those partners help close ports, arrest brokers, and follow the money. Trafficking is global. Fighting it must be global as well. This whole system, drones spotting wakes, destroyers scanning with long-range radar, cutters closing fast, lead-at teams boarding, and analysts knitting data together in Key West, creates pressure the cartels didn't expect. Routes that worked for years become risky. Trusted runners get caught. Payment chains fray. That is the point. Break the flow so the cartels can't simply replace one busted crew with the next man up. Does that end the traffickers? Number cartels adapt. But JIATF's approach turns short-term wins into long-term headaches for them. Every seized shipment and every arrested mid-level operator adds to the evidence piles that can reach deeper into cartel hierarchies. Heat maps guide the next patrol. Intelligence points to the next arrest. And the cycle goes on. The drug war at sea is messier and stranger than most people think. It is not just fast boats and hidden holds. It now includes real working submarines. Crude, clever, and terrifyingly effective. These vessels can slip under the waves and carry loads worth hundreds of millions of dollars. That makes them worth the huge risks the traffickers take. This did not come from nowhere. Back in the 1980s, smugglers towed simple tubes behind boats. It was clever but crude. By the 1990s, those tubes evolved into self-powered subs built in jungle workshops. Picture men in muddy clearings, cutting fiberglass and welding by hand under a tree canopy, hiding the work from satellites and planes. The boats weren't pretty, they were built to disappear. Today's narco subs are a strange mix of low-tech and smart design. Many are roughly 80 feet long and can go long distances on a single run. Some can travel underwater for long stretches without refueling. They carry up to 10 tons of drugs with small crews of 5 people squeezed into hot, dark spaces for days at a time. The price to build one, $1 to $2 million, is small compared to a single cargo's value of over $100 million. That math explains why traffickers keep making them. Smugglers have learned to make these subs hard to spot. They paint them in ocean colors. They shape them to cut the water with little wake. They add materials that lower heat signatures so aircraft with thermal cameras struggle to see them. Builders have even used lead or other tricks to hide heat, making planes and drones less able to pick them out. Those tricks make the subs hard to find, but they also bring new dangers. Many narco subs have scuttle systems, valves that flood the boat fast if capture seems likely. In minutes, the crew can sink the vessel and its cargo to the seafloor. When that happens in deep water, the drugs are often lost forever. Recovering a sunken sub from 1,000 or more feet down is next to impossible without special gear and huge budgets. Finding and stopping these subs means changing the game. Radar is not enough. Forces use sonar, magnetic detectors, long-range patrol aircraft, and tip-offs from human intelligence. Ships listen for odd sounds. Planes look for faint wakes or changes in sea color. Analysts stitch together signals from satellites, radios, and informants. It is a hunt that mixes science, patience, and luck. There is also a human cost. The crews who ride these subs live in hellish conditions: heat, damp, no fresh air, and a constant fear of drowning. Traffickers also force or trick locals into the work, turning desperate men into expendable riders on a death machine. Operation Orion in 2024 made it very clear. The narco-submarine threat was no longer local. When one of these subs was stopped on a run toward Australia, after a journey of more than 10,000 miles across the Pacific, the world could see the scale of the problem. This was not a one-off trick. It was proof that cartels had learned to build boats that could travel long distances and dodge normal checks. That changed the map. The fight at sea is a constant give and take. For every new trick the traffickers invent, law enforcement develops a counter. Thermal cameras hunt for faint heat. Long-range drones scan the horizon for odd wakes. Artificial intelligence sifts through oceans of data to spot patterns people might miss. Still, experts estimate that for every narco-submarine found, 3 or 4 slip past. That math shows the job is far from finished. That gap is exactly why Operation Martillo mattered. Launched in January 2012, its name, Hammer, fits the goal. It pulled nations together to hit cartels where they were strongest. Shipping routes. Ships, planes, and special teams patrolled the sea lanes from South America northward. The operation started small, but its tactics were smart. Teams cut larger patrols into tight patrol zones. Intelligence was shared in real time, and law enforcement inside the region could act faster because they were watching together. Martillo's early results were hard to ignore. Hundreds arrested, dozens of boats taken, and tons of cocaine off the water. Those numbers proved a basic truth. Cooperation works. If ships from different countries patrol the same seas and share what they see, smugglers lose the safe windows they once relied on. Operation Orion took that same idea and turned it up. By late 2024, 62 countries were on the same page. Small coast guards and big navies alike pushed assets into play. For 6 intense weeks, planes and ships searched, tracked, and boarded. The result was a record haul: 225 tons of cocaine in a single sweep, and more than 1,000 tons of marijuana and other drugs. A total street value the teams put at roughly $8.5 billion. Those numbers stunned many. They also rewired how the world looked at maritime drug trafficking. So what made Orion different? First, scale. More nations meant more eyes and more places to close down. Second, speed. Intelligence moved faster between partners, so forces could act before a suspect vanished. Third, tools. Satellites, patrol aircraft, sonar, long-endurance drones, and AI all combined to find things that would have been invisible a few years earlier. But big operations also reveal limits. Narco subs that sink themselves, remote jungle shipyards, deep water drops of cargo, those are hard to undo with a single mission. Cartel networks still have reach. Money moves fast, and corrupt points of contact can erode gains. And the human side is grim. Many crews on those subs are desperate people, sometimes forced or tricked into riding a death box across an ocean. Coastal communities that once saw smuggling as a living face growing danger when the cartels respond to pressure with violence and bribery. So what's next? The answer is not a single trick, but a long path. More tech, yes, but also better laws, faster courts, stronger anti-corruption work, and sustained international will. Recovering sunken submarines, following the money back to bank accounts and safe houses, and prosecuting the boss networks ashore all take time and money. Multinational operations like Martillo and Orion show that it can be done, and done at scale. They also show how the fight must keep evolving. They made Orion work by putting together pieces no single country could hold alone. The Americans brought satellite radar that could spot tiny wakes from space. The Dutch sent underwater drones to peer into hulls and scan below the waves. Colombian units, who know the jungle and river networks, found hidden launch sites in the places where subs and boats were built. Even landlocked nations helped, tracking money, phone calls, and shipping papers. Each partner gave one thing the others needed. Put together, those things became a force few smugglers could match. What set Orion apart was how fast and how clean the sharing was. Command centers worked around the clock, with officers from many nations side by side. Live feeds, maps, and chatter moved between them in real time. If a smuggler tried to change course after a tip, they often sailed right into someone else's patrol box. It was like closing doors on a hallway, where one gap opened, another shut. The seizures did more than stop dozens of shipments. Every arrest and every seized phone or laptop told a story. Analysts rebuilt route maps, linked names, and found inland contacts. The street price of cocaine climbed because the supply got thinner. That price rise hit the cartel's bottom lines, and money, more than sailors, matters most to these groups. To keep moving drugs, traffickers lean on two main tools: go-fasts and narco-subs. The go-fasts are the simple, brutal answer to speed and stealth. Picture a 30-foot boat with 3 or 4 outboard engines, each like a sports car motor. Those engines push the boat past 80 miles per hour. Painted dark to hide in the sea, stripped down to hold fuel and drugs, a go-fast carries one driver and as much cargo as it can. Extra tanks mean it can run 500 miles or more without stopping. The design is old, the same idea used by rum runners in the Prohibition era, but updated with modern motors and GPS. Catching a go-fast on the open water is almost impossible if you only have surface ships. That's where Hit Run comes in. These Coast Guard helicopter teams fly MH-65 Dolphins armed with rifles and trained marksmen. Instead of chasing, they fly over and tell the boat to stop. If it keeps running, Hetron snipers aim for the engines, not people, and put the boat out of action. The engines die. The chase ends. Boarding teams then move in to secure the crew and the drugs. But the traffickers keep changing. When speedboats become too risky, they turn to subs and semi-submersibles. When radar gets better, they paint hulls to blend with the sea or add materials to hide heat. When satellites watch the surface, they try to stage moves at night or use motherships that carry smaller runners far out to sea before dropping them off. So the answer is never just one tool. Orion showed that you need many tools used together: planes, ships, helicopters, underwater drones, satellites, money tracking, and fast legal moves. It also showed that a shared plan is stronger than solo effort. The cartels can still find gaps, but filling one hole often opens another. That's why the best defense is constant pressure. Keep the patrols active, keep the intelligence flowing, and keep the legal and financial levers engaged. The cartels thought they could outsmart the world's navies by blending in and slipping under the radar. Literally. Go fast disguised as fishing boats, fake nets piled on deck, even bogus crew uniforms. Some had hidden compartments below the waterline, perfect for stashing bales of cocaine, where a quick inspection would reveal nothing but empty space. Then came the low-profile vessels, part speedboat, part submarine. They barely break the water's surface, with just enough above for air intakes and a small cockpit. Painted the same blue as the open ocean, they're nearly invisible to the naked eye and hard for radar to pick up. Slower than a go-fast but harder to find, they became the new favorite for smugglers. But what the cartels didn't count on was running into the USCGC James, one of the most advanced cutters the U.S. Coast Guard has ever deployed. The James is not just a ship, it's a floating command center, a tracker, and a hunter all in one. First, size matters. At 418 feet long, the James has the endurance to stay at sea for up to 60 days without refueling. That means it can patrol far out in the Pacific or Atlantic, waiting patiently while smugglers think they've escaped. Smaller patrol boats have to return to port much sooner, leaving gaps the traffickers could exploit. Second, the James carries an entire surveillance arsenal. It has high-powered radar that can track small wakes miles away, thermal cameras that pick up heat signatures from engines, even those hidden below decks, and drones that can be launched directly from the ship. These drones can fly ahead, scan suspicious boats, and send a live video back to the crew. Third, the James doesn't hunt alone. It carries its own MH-65 Dolphin helicopter and boarding teams ready to move at a moment's notice. If radar spots a suspicious blip, the helicopter can be airborne in minutes. The speed and range of the Dolphin mean it can catch a go-fast before it ever gets close to its destination. Then there's the boarding crew. These aren't just sailors, they're trained for high-risk interdictions. Fast, armed, and coordinated, they can intercept a target by small boat, helicopter drop, or both at once. And because the James is part of a vast international network like Operation Orion, it can call in help from allied ships or planes in nearby waters. The James also has another edge: data fusion. It takes satellite information, intelligence from other countries, and real-time sensor readings, and blends them into a single, constantly updated picture of the surrounding seas. That means when a smuggler switches routes, the James already knows and is waiting,